Hey, what's going on, internet world? It's your boy Miles TV coming to you, doing his thing one more time. Now, I'm not doing my typical Miles TV thing this time. I'm not talking about any movies. I'm actually responding to a video that was on YouTube that was talking about the Most Valuable Player Award and the Defensive Player of the Year Award. This cat on YouTube, X, he said he doesn't feel like Peyton Manning deserves MVP, and doesn't feel like, and feels like that anyone that thinks Darrelle Revis deserved Defensive Player of the Year award is either A biased Jets fan, or B, just don't know anything about football. Now, I just felt the need to chime in and speak on a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying? Especially Manning not being deserving of MVP. Now, if you want to say that you feel somebody else deserved it over Manning, that's one thing. But to sit here and say that this coach on the field does not deserve to be the Most Valuable Player award, I just can't sit by and just let that be said. Now, one thing you said that this is the Most Valuable Player award, not the Most Valuable Team award. Just because he led his team to this and led his team to that, it shouldn't matter. But, in the example you gave, you said if there was a linebacker that came into the league and he set the sacks record, he set the tackles record, he set all these records, he just was an outstanding linebacker, and his team was only 16, that he wouldn't get MVP. You're right, he wouldn't. And he wouldn't deserve to, because that's not valuable. What valuable means is that if you take this player off this team, what is that team going to be without him? If you take a Hall of Fame, if you take Lawrence Taylor, if you take Reggie White off of a 0-16 team, do you know what that team becomes? A 0-16 team. You take Peyton Manning off the Indianapolis Colts, they become the Browns. You take Drew Brees off the New Orleans Saints, they become the Raiders. Just like that. So in order to be valuable, baby, you got to have a team that's doing good. Calvin Johnson is an outstanding wide receiver, but he's not the most valuable wide receiver because he's not leading his team to really do much. Now, I'm not saying it's his fault. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Calvin Johnson because the man is a beast. All I'm saying is you can't be the most valuable player on a bum team. With that being said, and another thing you said is that there were many other players that had better seasons than Peyton Manning. Okay, let me just read a couple things off to you real quick. 69% completion percentage, second in the league. Your man Favre was third. 4,500 yards through the air, second in the league. Your man Favre was ninth. 33 touchdowns, tied for second with your man Favre. And your man Favre had way less interceptions. Definitely give you credit on that. 237 first downs, first in the league. Your man Favre was fourth. First down percentage was 42.8. Second in the league, your man Favre was fifth. Now, if he first or second in every category for a quarterback, how is a lot of players having better years than him? Now, you named quarterback rating as a tangible quarterback stat. Now, I'm sorry, we're just gonna go ahead and throw that out right now. Let me just talk to you for a quick second about QB rating. Let me tell you who your top 5 players of all time, as far as QB rating is concerned. Your number 1 quarterback ever is Aaron Rodgers. Your number 2 is Steve Young. Your number 3 is Phillip Rivers. Your number 4 is Tony Romo. Your number 5 is Peyton Manning. That's your top 5 quarterbacks ever, as told by quarterback rating. You know who's not in your top 5? Joe Montana at 8. You know who's not in your top 10? Brett Favre at 16. Dan Marino at 19. You know who's not in your top 20? Jim Kelly at 24. Roger Staubach at 28. Let's see. Troy Aikman at 42. Warren Moon at 46. So let's just go ahead and throw that quarterback rating stat just out. We're not even going to worry about that. And another thing, you said Aaron Rodgers had a better year than Manning. Rodgers was 9th in the league in completion percentage, 4th in yards. Let's see here. 9th in first downs. And 12th in first down percentage. Now, I'll give it to you that Rodgers didn't have much of an offensive line. I'll give you that. But to sit there and say he had a better year than Peyton Manning, who was first or second in every important category for a quarterback, come on, son. And another thing too, like while we're talking about most valuable player, when you go into a game against the Minnesota Vikings, you sit there and say to yourself, how do we slow down Adrian Peterson? You go into a game against the Indianapolis Colts, do you think you are really game planning against Joseph Adai? Let's talk about those two for a quick second. Adrian Peterson averaged 4.4 yards a carry, 6th in the league. He had 1,383 yards, 5th in the league. 18 rushing touchdowns, 1st in the league. 74 first downs, 1st in the league. Let's talk about your boy Joseph Adai. 3.8 yards per carry. I think Reggie Bush might have had more than that. 27th in the league. 828 yards, 22nd in the league. 10 touchdowns, tied for 9th in the league with like 3 other cats. 44 first downs, 18th in the league. When you go into a game against the Indianapolis Colts, your defensive coordinator, your defensive staff, your linebackers, your corners, everybody's sitting there thinking to themselves, how do we stop Peyton Manning? They're not sitting there thinking like, oh man, we got to slow down Joseph Adai. You can't necessarily say that about the Vikings. You go into a game against the Vikings, you thinking about Adrian Peterson, you thinking about Brett Favre, you thinking about Percy Harvin, you know, Sidney Rice. You thinking about a lot of different guys with Minnesota. Now, I'm not saying that Brett Favre didn't have a great year. He had a great year. And I'm a Brett Favre hater. I can't stand Brett Favre. But he had a great year. You know, he was deserving of MVP by all means. But I definitely think that Peyton Manning was more deserving. I think that Drew Brees was more deserving. You know? And like, let's move on to Darrelle Revis real quick because I'm running out of time. You know what I'm saying? Now, you say anybody that think Darrelle Revis deserves the award is just a biased homer or don't know football. One of the cats that commented on your video, V Really, he told me, get off Revis's nuts because Chuck Wood, let me see here, is the best all-around corner in the league. Now, I wore my green Chuck Taylor shirt just, you know, in honor of Darrelle Revis today, so I guess I must be on his nuts, you know, because Chuck Wood is a better all-around corner. For those of you that think Chuck Wood's a better all-around corner, let me tell you something about Revis real quick. He was targeted 111 times. He gave up 41 completions for a total of 425 yards. That's a 37% completion rate against Darrelle Revis. And he gave up 2 touchdowns all year. Chuck Wood, on the other hand, targeted 76 times, gave up 39 completions for a total of 448 yards. 51% completion, gave up 5 touchdowns on the year. That is a great year for a corner. That's a hell of a year for a corner with those type of numbers. But you know what? Not as good as Revis's cornerback numbers, coverage numbers. So don't say he's the best all-around corner when Darrelle Revis was targeted more and gave up less yards, not less catches, about the same amount of catches, and less touchdowns. And that's another common misconception about Darrelle Revis is that quarterbacks don't throw at Darrelle Revis. What you guys are failing to remember, you have to throw at Darrelle Revis because Darrelle Revis is covering Hall of Fame wide receiver. You just can't go. Tom Brady can't sit back there in his huddle and say, nah, I'm not going to throw at Randy Moss this play. Darrelle Revis, you got to take your chances. You got to throw at T.O. You got to throw at Andre Johnson. And speaking of this Hall of Fame list of wide receivers, I mean, you guys know the list, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it anyway. Andre Johnson, 4 catches, 35 yards. Randy Moss, 4 catches, 24 yards. Marcus Colston, 2 catches, 33 yards. T.O., 3 catches, 13 yards. Randy Moss, the second time, 5 catches, 34 yards. Steve Smith, 1 catch, 5 yards. T.O. the second time, 3 catches, 31 yards. Antonio Brown, 2 catches, 22 yards. Roddy White, 2 catches, 16 yards. Reggie Wayne, 3 catches, 33 yards. 85, Ocho Cinco didn't have a single catch. After all that mess, he talked all week long about what he was going to do. And it's not like these guys got bums throwing at him. You know what I'm saying? You got Matt Schaub throwing at Andre Johnson. You got Tom Brady throwing at Randy Moss. You got Drew Brees throwing at Marcus Colston. You see what I'm saying? You got Matt Ryan throwing at Roddy White. You got Carson Palmer throwing at 85. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to Chuck Wood, but the best receiver you covered all year was Sidney Rice. Sidney Rice is a beast, don't get me wrong. Young guy, he's going to come along well. But Sidney Rice does not hold a candle to Andre Johnson, Randy Moss, Marcus Colston, Terrell Owens, Steve Smith, Reggie Wayne. Come on now. I mean, so, V, really? Really? I really can't see what you're saying about Chuck Wood being the best all-around corner in the league. I just can't see it. And my man X, for you to feel like the best player on the best defense doesn't even deserve to be mentioned in the Defensive Player of the Year. Well, I mean, to say that anybody thinks he deserves the award is just don't know football. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch. And like I said, I think Chuck had a great year. I have no problem with Chuck having the award. You know, to me, it's kind of like instant replay. Like the evidence is not conclusive to overturn the ruling on the field. Had Darrelle Revis got it, I would support it. Chuck got it, I support it. I think they both were definitely deserving. But for the cat, there's another cat that made a comment on your video. He said if you take Peyton Manning off of the Colts, that they still be a good team. Come on, son.